I'm here today to announce a decision related to my role in the officer-involved shooting investigation associated with an incident last week at the site of the future Atlanta Public Safety Training Center, located at 1327 Key Road in unincorporated Dekalb County. First, a review of the facts associated with this case. On the morning of January 18th, 2023, during a multi-jurisdictional operation to secure the site and remove trespassers, a Georgia State Patrol officer was shot and critically wounded. He was transported to the hospital for life-saving care. The alleged suspect in the shooting, Teran, age 26, was also shot during the incident and pronounced deceased at the scene. An investigation into the facts, evidence, and circumstances involving that shooting is currently underway. Typically, when there is an officer-involved shooting in DeKalb County's jurisdiction, the investigation is conducted by a law enforcement agency, generally the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Upon completion of that investigation, the findings are then forwarded to the Office of the DeKalb County District Attorney for review and charging determination. That charging determination includes a decision on which charges, if any, should be pursued and against whom based on the facts, evidence, and circumstances related to the matter. The case is then presented to a grand jury for indictment, if appropriate. In the alternative, our office may also determine not to pursue charges and essentially close the case, as dictated by the facts, evidence, and circumstances surrounding the case. Either way, I take the review and charging determination associated with an officer-involved shooting very seriously. It is a decision that carries a huge level of responsibility and a duty to protect with integrity, transparency, accountability, and fairness, which brings us why we are here today. After careful consideration, I have decided to voluntarily recuse the Office of the DeKalb County District Attorney from the review of the investigative file and potential prosecution of the officer-involved shooting involved in this case. Although there is no legal conflict with accepting this case upon completion of its investigation, I believe recusal is the best course of action related to this element of the joint operation. My decision is based upon several factors, including our ongoing involvement in the multi-jurisdictional task force charged with holding those responsible who commit crimes and ensure a safe environment in the process. The overreaching reasoning for my recusal is that it is simply the right thing to do. It avoids the appearance of any impropriety and is consistent with the mission of my office and our efforts to instill community trust and confidence in our criminal justice system. As such, we have formally notified the Prosecuting Attorney's Council of Georgia of our voluntary recusal in this matter and have requested the appointment of an independent prosecution agency. I have said before that the DeKalb County District Attorney's Office should be a standard bearer for prosecution and for our community by doing what is right without fail. I stand by that philosophy today. We remain committed to working with our partners on this task force as we endeavor to bring this operation to a safe, successful, and peaceful resolution. Thank you for your time, and I'll open up the floor now for any questions.
DA, I know AG Carr has been vocal about working with your office and other offices, Fulton County, with some of these arresting issues related to this situation. Can you talk a little bit more about why recusing if you guys have been collaborating with the state?
Well, let me be clear. The recusal is just for the investigation into the officer-involved shooting and the death of Mr. Teran, which is a separate matter altogether. Even had we not been on this task force, that case would have traditionally come to our office. So I reiterate that we remain committed to the Joint Task Force, and we will be involved in the prosecution of all the cases that are happening here in unincorporated DeKalb County.
Good. So if there are future acts of violence and riots that happen that could fall under domestic terrorism charges, is it fair to say that your office would investigate, and if charges are warranted, without charges?
Absolutely, without fail. We remain committed to the prosecution of any and all cases relating to the Atlanta Public Training Facility. The only recusal we are making today is specifically into the officer-involved shooting investigation.
So you remain on the cases with the seven protesters that have already been arrested?
Yes, absolutely.
And none of them are going to be tied to the shooting at all?
I cannot comment on the facts of that part of the investigation, but what I can say again, this small piece, which is a large piece, the investigation of the actual shooting of Mr. Teran will not be, we will not be involved in that.
Can you elaborate on, you mentioned a couple factors of why you're recusing yourself, or the DA's office. And part of that you said was the relationship with the community. Can you just highlight that again, why you feel like this is a crux point right now for DeKalb County, for law enforcement, for the DA's office, and why being independent of this or recusing yourself from this is essential?
That's a great question. And let me just start by saying that predates even this case. Officer-involved shootings have become a conversation that really requires a commitment to the community and for the trust to believe that when an officer discharges their weapon in any circumstance, that will be investigated thoroughly and completely so the community feels that action was justified, warranted, and appropriate. And if not, that officer be prosecuted under those circumstances. So officer-involved shootings in themselves. When I ran for DA back in 2016, I assured the community that I was going to take a certain approach on these cases so that whatever the outcome yielded, that the community could feel that it was done with transparency, accountability, and fairness. And so I'm sticking to that mission today, and this becomes the first case, the first officer-involved shooting case that this office has recused from since I became DA in January of 2017. And it's because I believe being a part of the multi-jurisdictional task force puts us in a position that it's very possible that community would feel that we were involved in it and therefore could not investigate our own. And that's fair. And that's why I'm choosing to voluntarily recuse today.
Do you think since the GBI was involved in that task force as well, that they can objectively review the facts of this case?
That is a question for the GBI to make. But what I can say is our roles in officer-involved shootings are very different. The GBI is tasked with the collection of evidence. The prosecuting agency is tasked with making a decision as to whether charges are warranted or whether the shooting was justified. So we have two very different roles, and I'm looking solely at the role that the prosecution agency plays in this investigation.
Do you fear that this might send the wrong message to the agitators, that they feel, hey, if we don't have the county prosecuting attorney's office, recusing herself from this case, that it might encourage them to go back out there and commit more acts of violence?
No, actually just the opposite. I hope that what this instills with protesters on the ground is that this will get a full, fair, impartial, and independent look, which I think is important for our community and for everyone that is mourning the death of Manuel. Every day we deal with people in the community that have experienced trauma and pain. And when I meet with anyone, whether it's victims' families that we're not charging any accountability with, and I have to explain to them our investigation, I always start with saying, we did this independently and we did this fairly. You may not like the outcome, but I want you to always believe in how the investigation happened. And so the message I send is, I intend for the investigation to be impartial, and therefore I am removing myself from the situation.
But to be
clear that GBI is still conducting the investigation. They're just referring whatever they find to someone different.
Yes, that is correct.
Would that be the state AG or bring in outside?
No, as you may be aware, the law changed as of July 1st. All conflict or recusal cases go directly to the prosecuting attorney's counsel, and that counsel is empowered to now assign conflict counsel in every case. So it is not the state AG.
Okay.
Do you think the decision to charge the activists arrested in December with domestic terrorism escalated this current situation?
I can't speak to the motivations of anyone under these circumstances. All I can say is that we will continue to follow the law and the evidence and the facts as we see them and make appropriate charges.
In terms of prosecuting, it's a little bit confusing because you're involved, DeKalb County's involved, the state AG is involved, potentially federal agencies could get involved in prosecuting. It's DeKalb County, some stuff happened in the city of Atlanta, and Fulton County. Can you just break down how these different jurisdictions will work together, who takes the lead, and what the timetable is for prosecuting, especially those who have this domestic terrorism charge?
So again, I can't speak to specifics on the individual cases, but what I can say is this: multi-jurisdictional task force are nothing new. We actually do them quite often when we have facts and circumstances that allow individual agencies to bring together their expertise in making sure that our community is safe. We work oftentimes, many times, with the U.S. Attorney's Office, the FBI, the GBI, the ATF, the DEA. I could go on and on. As you know, Atlanta is a large city, and we have many law enforcement agencies, both state, federal, and local, that are tasked with keeping us safe. And we work together every day to make sure that that mission is followed. All right. Well, thank you very much for being here, and you all have a great day.